Hello, everyone. Happy May 1st and happy birthday to my sister Natalie. I wanted to do a quick review of all the books that I read in April. I don't feel like I did a good job reading many books last month. It was a pretty crazy month. We had a vacation, a wedding, and I just did not have a chance to read for a huge portion of the month. But I did get through a good amount of books. I think it's about 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12, yeah. The first book I finished was Erasure. This book is based on the movie that was nominated for some for some Oscars this year, American Fiction. And I did love this book. This book was great. It was very clever. It reminded me of another book I read last year, Yellowface, which deals with racism in the publishing industry. But I feel like this book handled it so much better in such a clever, interesting way. I absolutely love this book. I highly recommend it. This is Hellbent, a sequel to Leigh Bardou's other book. What was it? The Ninth House. Yes, The Ninth House I read the previous month, and I absolutely love The Ninth House. I thought that was such a great book. Hellbent, I did not love as much. I don't know why. I do want to reread it, but it just didn't do it the same thing that Ninth House did for me. Ninth House, the characters were very fresh. The story was very interesting. I almost kind of got bored with the characters in this book, and there were a couple plots that I got really excited about, and they just didn't pan out in an interesting way. So maybe there'll be another book, and that those things will be dealt with. But I didn't love this as much, but I do want to reread it. Maybe I was just in a bad headspace. I finished Singular Sensation, The Triumph of Broadway. This was a pretty great book. I do want to get the next one, or I guess the other one, Razzle Dazzle, The Battle for Broadway. The only problem I had with this book is there's too much going on. Every chapter was about a bunch of different Broadway shows, and I almost kind of wish it would stick to like a few shows or a few Broadway directors. There was just too much going on in this book, and I would get excited about something and then it would end kind of abruptly and move on to something else. This book, Quit Like a Woman, this is all about quitting alcohol, and I love this book. I actually did quit alcohol this month. I quit the day I started reading this book. That's how effective this book was. After reading this, I have zero interest in drinking alcohol. This book was a little crazy at times. She definitely had a lot of stories that were shocking and I didn't really like, but that's okay because the book was just that good. I really liked the way she handled feminism and the alcohol culture and just the process of quitting. And I really, really resonated with this book. I thought this was a great self-help book in addition to being an anti-alcohol book. But yeah, if you have any interest in quitting alcohol and you're a woman, this book is definitely an interesting read. I do recommend it. I thought this book was just really changed my perspective on a lot of things. I finished Sheets. This is a graphic novel. This graphic novel was almost perfect, I think. There were a couple parts that were just very silly that kind of ruined it. The perfection, I think. But other than that, I really, really liked it. I thought this was a fascinating, I guess, like a mini horror story for kids, but it was also it was profound and creepy, and I really liked it. I couldn't put this one down. I really enjoyed this book, so I just wish there were a couple scenes that didn't exist, but other than that, I loved it. I finished Men at Arms. This is book 2 in the this is Terry Pratchett's series about the Night Watch. So Captain Vimes, Carrot, and I read Guards, which was book 1 earlier this year, and this is book 2, and I'm getting ready to start the next book, which I got for my birthday, Feet of Clay, and I love this book. I didn't love it as much as Guards. That book was just a whole level of brilliant, but this one was great. I really liked it, and I tried listening to this series on audio, and it did not work for me. I have to read these books, the physical copies, which is a huge challenge right now because I guess they're re-releasing all the softbacks and the hardcovers just cost a fortune. So it's kind of and I don't want to get the mass market paperbacks. Those are like the only ones available. So anyway, so I'm slowly going through this series. This is such an amazing fantasy, sci-fi, like commentary on so many different things. I love it. This is Invisible Storm, a soldier's memoir on politics and PTSD. This is a book I got from the publisher. I really enjoyed this book. This book was a really interesting look into PTSD and PTSD recovery or treatment. It was a very interesting conversational book. It was very surprising. It was kind of back and forth between Jason Kander and his wife, kind of discussing his experience dealing with his PTSD and also kind of going into politics and possibly the presidential race. But I did really like this. I'm really glad I read that. I finished How To. This is by Randall Munroe, and I did read his other books, Volume 1, and that was a graphic novel. It was really great. And then I read his What If 1. I also have his What If 2. What If 1 was wonderful. This book was not wonderful. This one took me forever to finish. And the problem is right here in the title, absurd. This book was absurd. I just could not get into any of the prompts. There were a few that were really interesting. Maybe they dealt more with the type of science I was into. But most of the questions that he talked about in this book, they were just so bizarre. And his solutions were so bizarre that my brain just started wandering. And I had such a difficult time focusing and caring about his explanations. This isn't my book. This is my husband's book. And so I don't really have the right to get rid of it. So I'm going to hold on to it, maybe reread portions of it one day. Or maybe the kids will be interested, but I did not. I had a hard time with that one. I also read David Chang's Eat a Peach, and this is a memoir of his, also a mental health book. He had emotional deregulation, and this was kind of a great analysis of how he got diagnosed and how he dealt with it, but also his journey into becoming a 3-star Michelin chef, and his career, and also his relationship with Anthony Bourdain, which was kind of touched upon a bit. But I just really enjoyed this book. This one really resonated with me. I loved it. This was a great memoir. I would definitely reread this again. This is an interesting book. Everything is Illuminated by Jonathan Safran Foer. I went back and forth between loving and hating this book while reading it. I definitely felt like this is a get rid of for me, because there's this amazing story going on, and it's a very unique, well-written story. And then there's another story within the story that is being written after the end of the first story, but it's also intertwined. And that story is horrible. It is so horrible, and I hated it so much. So it's almost like 2 books in one, and one book is amazing and the other one is just 0 stars for me. Like, so horrible, I never want to read it again. So, but it's funny, after I finished reading the book, I couldn't stop thinking about it because the first story was so brilliant and so well done. So I went and got this like really fancy edition of it. I had the paperback that I was reading. And so, so yeah, that's a weird way to get rid of a book, by getting a fancy hardcover collector's edition version of the book. So yeah, I guess this is a keep for me because the story is that good. The first story. And if I do reread it, I'm just going to make sure I don't read the other story, because I don't understand why it's there. And I don't even think the characters like that story. They keep complaining about it and criticizing it. So it was really, really bizarre. But yeah, interesting read. I finished The Interloper, which I really liked. I was really interested in the assassination of President Kennedy when I was in high school. I did a lot of research and I was kind of obsessed with it. I think I actually read the Warren Report because I was that obsessed with the idea of like what happened. And so this book was really interesting. This is a very detailed analysis of what Lee Harvey Oswald did while he lived in the Soviet Union. And if And I thought this was very well done because I guess after the president was assassinated, Russia wanted to make sure that they were not, no fingers were pointed at them for being involved in the assassination. So they gave a lot of information over what Lee Harvey Oswald was doing in their country before he killed the president over to the United States to be included in the Warren Report. And this book was a very detailed kind of, because he was very well monitored while he was in the Soviet Union. And also just to get kind of a sense of how life was in the Soviet Union back then, especially for an American expatriate. So this book was fascinating. I love this. This was very interesting. I recommend it. And then finally, I was going to get rid of this book. I was actually going to DNF this book during the last video I was making because it's wrong. But I ended up finishing it, and I did enjoy it. I did enjoy this book. I kind of could tell when what the author was saying were just wrong, but the rest of it was really interesting, and I did enjoy the book, and I'm going to hold on to it for a little bit. I'm going to read some newer books that have recently come out on this science area, and then make a decision. But there was a really great section in this book about vitamins and how vitamins kind of interplay and kind of interact with each other in the human body, and I really enjoyed that. And then there was some interesting longevity speculation that I also enjoyed. So I think for now, I'm just going to hold on to this book and maybe reread portions of it and possibly just keep some of the information about the vitamins, and some of his other recommendations are not so crazy. So yeah, anyway, so these are the books I read in April, and hopefully I do better next month because my books are just overflowing. Thank you for watching.